Hey, let's get into it. In the 1800s, there was a missionary named Adoniram Judson, and he labored for years in Burma. He buried his wife, he buried his kids, he was imprisoned, tortured. There were long stretches where it looked like nothing he was doing was working. And at one point, he actually wondered out loud if anything would come from all of his efforts, anything at all. Yet over time, a church was planted, scripture was translated, and generations eventually were shaped by a faith that outlasted him. Not because things were easy, but because he endured. That's the kind of perspective that James wants to bring here in James chapter 5, verse 10. As an example of suffering and patience, brothers, take a look at the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. James is pointing us backwards to the Old Testament, not to ideal conditions, but just to real people who lived under tremendous pressure. The prophets. They weren't these distant, mighty figures. They just lived simple lives and they spoke truth into really difficult environments. They were ignored, they were opposed, they were misunderstood, and sometimes they were rejected outright. And yet, they just kept speaking. Not because the response was easy, but because the calling on their lives was just really clear. James is writing here to believers whose lives are under just tremendous pressure. They're scattered, they're facing hardship, they're waiting for relief, they're unsure about the future. And instead of offering a quick solution, he gives them something better, something deeper. He gives them a pattern. Look how he describes it here. It says suffering and patience, not one or the other. They go together. The word for patience here is the idea of long endurance, long suffering. It's not just passive waiting, but staying steady over long periods of time. This is what the prophets modeled. Jeremiah spoke for years with just very little visible fruit. Elijah stood alone, overwhelming opposition. Isaiah delivered messages that people they didn't want to hear it, and yet they continued. Not because it felt successful, but because they trusted the one who sent them. And this is how transformation works, not with quick outcomes. It's not push button easy. It's sustained faithfulness. Because the value of a life lived with God is not measured by immediate results. It's measured by alignment over time. So where does this meet you right now? Maybe not in theory, just really something specific, a situation that just feels so slow and dragged out, a season that just feels heavy, a place where progress just isn't obvious. And what would it look like to just stay steady right there? Not forcing results, not checking out, remaining faithful in what you've been given to do. Because endurance isn't about just holding on harder, it's about continuing to trust God over time, over long periods of time. In that long suffering, trusting that even in the moments where it looks like there aren't immediate results, where things aren't going the way that we hoped or wanted them to, trusting that He's in the work in our lives and in those seeds that we plant, whatever that looks like, as well. Wherever you find yourself, God goes with you today.